I stood in the cereal aisle for 20 minutes, holding a box I'd bought hundreds of times before. My daughter asked why I looked confused. I couldn't tell her the truth yet. I did just notice three words on the back that completely contradicted what I thought I knew about the food I'd been feeding my family for years. That moment sent me down a path I never expected to take. For the next 3 months, I investigated UK food labels. Not just reading them, actually investigating them. What I discovered didn't just surprise me. It changed how I see every single product in every single supermarket across this country, and I need to show you what I found. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not here to scare you. I'm someone who trusted the system. I believed that UK food regulations were among the strictest in the world. I thought that if something was on a shelf in Tesco or Sainsbury's, it had been checked, approved, and deemed safe. I assumed the labels told me everything I needed to know. I was wrong. Not because the labels are lying, but because I didn't understand what they were actually allowed to say. This investigation started after a conversation with a food technologist who worked in product development for 15 years. She told me something that stopped me cold. She said the label is designed to comply with regulations, not to inform you. Those are two very different things. That statement haunted me. So I decided to find out what that actually meant. I started with the basics, how UK food labels really work. And even here, at the foundation level, I found things that most people never realize. Ingredients are listed in descending order by weight. Everyone knows that. But what most people don't know is that this rule has built-in loopholes that manufacturers use constantly. If a product contains multiple types of sugar, they can list each one separately. Glucose syrup, dextrose, maltose, fructose. Individually, none of them might be the main ingredient. But add them together and sugar could actually be the dominant ingredient in that product. The label doesn't have to tell you that. Then there's the term natural flavoring. I always thought natural meant good, healthy, simple, but according to UK and EU regulations, natural flavoring just means it originally came from a plant or animal source. It can still be heavily processed, chemically altered, and combined with dozens of other compounds. The word natural tells you almost nothing about what you're actually consuming. I didn't want to believe this, so I started investigating real products. I began with bread, basic white bread from a major UK supermarket. Standard loaf, nothing fancy. I expected flour, water, yeast, maybe salt. When I actually read the ingredient list properly, I counted 14 ingredients, 14 in bread. There were emulsifiers I'd never heard of, flour treatment agents, something called palm oil, and buried near the end, soya flour. I'm not saying these ingredients are dangerous, but I never knew they were there. And when I looked into why they're used, I learned they extend shelf life, improve texture, and reduce production costs. They're there for the manufacturer's benefit, not mine. What I didn't expect was what came next. I looked at cereals marketed to families, bright boxes, happy cartoon characters, words like whole grain and fortified with vitamins on the front. I felt good buying these for years. Then I looked at the back. The third ingredient was sugar. The fifth ingredient was glucose syrup. The seventh was honey. 3 different sweeteners in the top 7 ingredients. But on the front of the box, in huge letters, it said made with whole grain. Technically true, also technically misleading. The regulations allow this. As long as the label is accurate, the marketing can emphasize whatever the manufacturer wants you to focus on. This is where it gets uncomfortable. I moved on to pasta sauces. Standard tomato and basil sauce from a well-known brand. The label showed beautiful fresh tomatoes on the front. I assumed it was mostly tomatoes. Maybe some basil, olive oil, and seasoning. The second ingredient was sugar. Higher than the basil, higher than the olive oil. In some jars I checked, there was more sugar than garlic. But the front of the jar showed rustic Italian imagery and the word authentic. According to ingredient lists, many UK pasta sauces contain more sugar per serving than some biscuits. I had no idea. And I'd been using these sauces multiple times a week. I started checking everything: yogurts, granola bars, healthy snacks, ready meals. Every category revealed the same pattern. The front of the package told a story, the back of the package told the truth. And most of us never looked at the back carefully enough to notice the difference. Then I found something that genuinely shocked me. I was investigating chicken products. Fresh chicken breast from the refrigerated section, it looked normal. But when I read the fine print, I saw the words "with added water" followed by a percentage. Some chicken breasts contained up to 15% added water. UK regulations allow this. As long as it's declared on the label, manufacturers can inject water into chicken to increase the weight. You're paying chicken prices for water, and unless you read that specific part of the label, you'd never know. Most people never notice this. I looked into fruit juices next. Products labeled fruit juice drink versus 100% fruit juice. I always thought they were basically the same. They're not. A fruit juice drink can legally contain as little as 5% actual fruit juice in the UK. The rest can be water, sugar, flavoring, and coloring. But the packaging often shows bright, fresh fruit, and the word juice is prominently displayed. The difference is in the exact wording, and unless you know what to look for, it's almost impossible to spot. I found the same issue with meat products. Items labeled chicken nuggets versus chicken breast nuggets. One has to contain a certain percentage of chicken breast meat. The other just has to contain chicken, which could be mechanically separated chicken, chicken skin, or processed chicken meat. Both can look identical. Both can be on the same shelf, but they're completely different products. Then came the moment that changed everything for me. I was checking a product my kids ate regularly. A snack bar marketed as healthy, oats on the front. Words like energy and natural. I'd bought it because I thought it was better than chocolate bars or crisps. When I actually calculated the sugar content per bar, it was higher than a standard chocolate bar, not by a little, by a significant amount. The label was completely legal. Everything was declared. But the way it was packaged, marketed, and positioned in the store made me believe I was making a healthy choice. I wasn't. I was just making a different choice. That realization hit hard. I'm an educated person. I care about what my family eats. I read labels, or at least I thought I did, and I'd been completely misled. Not by lies, but by legal, regulated, approved marketing that technically told the truth while practically deceiving me. I realized the system isn't designed to make sure I'm informed. It's designed to make sure manufacturers can sell their products while technically complying with minimum legal standards. So what does this actually mean for you, for your family? It means every time you shop, you're navigating a system where the label is written for lawyers and regulators, not for you. The front of the package is marketing. The back of the package is the legal requirement. And there's often a massive gap between the two. It means those quick shopping trips where you grab familiar brands because you trust them might be based on incomplete information. It means your kids might be consuming far more sugar, salt, or processed ingredients than you realize. Not because you're careless, but because the system makes it incredibly difficult to make truly informed choices. It means that terms we think we understand, like natural, fresh, whole grain, low fat, actually have very specific legal definitions that might not match what we assume they mean. And it means that unless we actively educate ourselves about how to read these labels properly, we're shopping blind. This isn't about fear, this is about awareness. So here's what I learned about reading UK food labels smartly. First, ignore the front of the package entirely when making decisions. Treat it as advertising because that's what it is. The useful information is on the back and sides. Second, read the ingredient list, not just the nutritional information. Ingredients tell you what's actually in the product. Numbers on a nutrition label can be manipulated by serving size. Third, watch for multiple names for the same ingredient. Sugar, glucose, syrup, dextrose, maltose, honey, and dozens of other terms all mean added sweeteners. If you see several of these, That product is sugar-heavy regardless of where each individual one appears on the list. Fourth, understand what may contain actually means. It's an allergy warning, yes, but it also tells you about the production environment. If a product may contain traces of 12 different allergens, that tells you about cross-contamination risks and production line practices. Fifth, check the country of origin and production details. UK regulations are strict, but imported ingredients might come from countries with different standards. The label has to tell you this if you know where to look. Sixth, compare products by looking at the per 100 grams information, not per serving. Manufacturers can make serving sizes whatever they want. 100 grams is standardized and lets you compare accurately. Seventh, be especially careful with children's products. These are often the most heavily marketed and the most misleading. Bright colors, cartoon characters, and health claims on the front often hide concerning ingredient lists on the back. None of this is secret information. It's all legal, regulated, and available. But it's presented in a way that requires effort, knowledge, and time to understand properly. And most of us don't have that time when we're rushing through a weekly shop with kids in tow. Why does this matter more than ever right now? Because food manufacturing has become incredibly sophisticated. The science of making food appealing, shelf-stable, and profitable has advanced enormously. But the regulations haven't kept pace with making labels truly informative for consumers. Food companies spend billions on packaging, positioning, and messaging designed to create emotional responses and brand loyalty. They employ psychologists, designers, and marketers to make sure you pick their product. We make more food decisions on autopilot, relying on familiar brands and quick visual cues rather than detailed analysis. The system knows this and uses it. We want to believe that products in major supermarkets, especially those marketed to families and children, have our best interests at heart. Sometimes they do. Often, they just have their shareholders' interests at heart. Those aren't always the same thing. I'm not telling you to stop shopping at supermarkets or to avoid all processed food. That's not realistic for most families, including mine. I'm not even telling you that everything I found is necessarily harmful. I'm telling you that the labels don't work the way most of us think they do. And that gap between perception and reality matters. Since finishing this investigation, I shop differently. Not drastically differently, not obsessively, just more carefully. I spend an extra 2 minutes reading backs of packages. I compare products I used to just grab automatically. Those few extra minutes have completely changed what ends up in my shopping trolley. The most important thing I learned isn't about any specific ingredient or product. It's that the responsibility for being informed has been placed entirely on us as consumers. The regulations ensure a minimum standard of truth, but they don't ensure actual understanding. That's our job. If this investigation made you question even one product you regularly buy, then this video did what it was supposed to do. These labels are designed to be confusing. But once you understand how to read them properly, you can't unsee it. You start noticing the gaps everywhere, and you start making genuinely informed choices instead of choices based on marketing. That box of cereal I stood holding for 20 minutes, I put it back, not because it's poison, not because I'm afraid of it, but because I finally understood what was actually in it, and that knowledge changed my decision.